What is up? Welcome back to the channel. I got another update to the John Cena video. Kind of gotten full back into the swing of it here, so we've picked up, I don't know what quite a few would be in your minds, but we've picked up some over the last few days. I've also had some that have been chilling for a while and just I haven't put into videos or anything yet, but we're gonna crank through 6 today and keep rolling through this John Cena collection, trying to keep making a dent if we can. But yeah, so to start, we are going to start with a basic. We are going to start with Superstar Entrance Series 2 John Cena. Here you can see him in his blue or like navy blue Never Give Up shirt, and he's got the blue wristbands on. So it is just a basic, so he's got the basic articulation. But the kind of gimmick behind this one was these were Walmart exclusives, and they were all like entrance gear type Superstars. Now, entrance gear, when I say that, it's just a t-shirt painted on them. They were basic figures, so they didn't have accessories or anything like that. So they all came with just the shirt on. I believe there was maybe 4 or 5 series. I don't know. I can't remember exactly. John Cena has a couple, at least a handful more or so. And this is the Series 2 one. I don't know if he was in Series 1, to be honest. I don't remember seeing a Series 1 of John, but there's so many John Cena figures that I've looked up and when I made the list and everything, so it's hard to remember exactly, but this is the Series 2 one. These were all Walmart exclusives, like I did mention, and they all came with just the t-shirts on. Obviously, this is what John Cena would look like when he came down to the ring. Some of them weren't exactly spot on. Some of them made sense. Some of them were not really entrances as much as they were just kind of like street gear ones instead. Because I think Austin had one maybe, and he was just in like a t-shirt and jeans. Or maybe that was just Macho Man. I'm pretty sure Macho Man came in like a blue or a purple t-shirt and then jeans instead of like his actual entrance type gear. But that's what they called that series, was the entrance, or Superstar entrances. But so yeah, that's our first one for today. Nothing too crazy, like I said, still just the basic figures like we've had, but yep, that's the Superstar entrance added to the John Cena collection. The next one is, I guess, a new one, or kind of a new series that we haven't looked at yet, and that is called Flex Force. Flex Force was like a kids aimed line, and it was because it had the action, so you could pull the arm and bam, he would do the, well, he's called hook throwing, so he would do a hook, or throw a hook, but yeah, so this is Flex Force Series 1. This is hook throwing. John Cena, but yeah, Flex Force Series 1 hook throwing John Cena. Flex Force Series 1, he had a couple different ones in. He had a hook throwing one. He had a couple other moves. I forget what all the moves are like specifically called, but I believe he has at least 2, if not 3 more Series 1 Flex Force figures, which is kind of weird. But there he is there. The weird thing about these figures too is like basically from the bottom half down, they're almost like statues. His hips move so he can kind of do kicks and stuff, but it's barely. And then his knees don't have articulation at all. So like his knee is half bent there. You can't unbend that. Like he's just kind of standing in a squat position almost. My guess is that was cost-cutting measures for the action feature. So they took out the some of the leg and foot, like ankle and knee articulation, to be able to make it cheaper, to keep the price down for the action features. I don't know that for sure. That's just a guess. But I would think that's probably an accurate assumption, because obviously they already had the molds and the tooling to make, jeaned legs with articulation in it. So I don't know why they wouldn't have, unless they were trying to cut costs. But the other kind of interesting thing is his hands are both rubber instead of plastic. So they're like a rubbery material rather than, this guy's are plastic, just like the rest of the figure. It's all the same material, or molded out of all the same material, where this one he has soft, dropping him. This one he has the soft rubber hands on both the non-punching hand and the actual hook throwing hand. So, but yeah, that is Flex Force Series 1 hook throwing John Cena. These are kind of annoying to get too, by the way, because they weren't like sealed in the plastic. And what I mean by that is like, so when you buy a figure, usually the box, like the figure is enclosed in the entire box. You can't actually touch the figure from the store. Like if you're standing in a store, you can't touch the figure. These were, he was like half out of the box, so you could like try the action in the store if you wanted to. So like a lot of them are hard to find, because on eBay I've even seen ones that are still mint on card, but like the hands are busted off and different things like that. I'm sure everybody's seen stuff like that in stores where like something gets played with or touched so many times that it breaks or falls off or whatever, or you know, kids are too crazy with it in the stores, so something happens to it. But so that's why these are kind of a pain in the ass to find. They're also an older set, so they came out early on in the Mattel days of having the WWE license, so they're a little bit older, which makes them a little harder to find in that regard too. But the fact that you could touch them and play with them at the store lends a lot of them to have been broken and different things like that. A lot of them I think also ended up on clearance, and like the line didn't do very well, because now that I'm seeing it and playing with it, like I don't know that I would play with this with an Elite also if I had that as a kid. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't add up there. So it didn't really make sense in my opinion. But anyways, let's get off the Flex Force. We still have plenty of Flex Forces we can talk about when we get those. Like I said, there's a handful more, I mean, just in Series 1. So next up is a familiar one basically from the last video, but this is Tough Talkers Series 2. I added it to the list because, you know, I wanted to see if it was any different really than the first one. It is not. It's exactly identical. Everything's the same. The only thing that was different that I could see was the packaging. He doesn't make the noise. He just makes a little sound, just like I explained the last one did. But the only thing that I could see was different was the packaging. On the front of the packaging for Series 1, which was the one I did in the last video, it had a picture of him against Kevin Owens, and then the Series 2 one had a picture of him against Xavier Woods, and then I believe Series 2 had the New Day added instead of whoever else was in Series 1. I don't know exactly who all was in Series 1, but I feel like the time frame probably lines up to where these came out and the New Day got really hot when they, you know, were New Day, obviously, and they rushed to get a Series 2 out with the New Day in it, especially because the whole gimmick to these was talking, and the New Day had a ton of different like one-liners and things that fans loved to say and repeat and blah blah blah. So I feel like Series 2 was probably a rush job just to get New Day in there, and John was one of the carryovers from Series 1, so he got a Series 1 and a Series 2, and it's the exact same figure. Like I said, I feel like it was just a rush job to get the New Day ones out, but I don't know that. That's just an assumption, and that is why this one is exactly the same as the Series 1. This one was a little harder to find too. I don't know if there's a reason for that, or if maybe it was short packed too because of the fact that they wanted to rush the New Day. So like maybe this John came in one out of every 3 cases or 1 out of every 2 cases or whatever of Tough Talkers Series 2 that went to stores. It took me a while to track that one down. I found Series 1 super quick. Like you can find those all over eBay, no problem. And this one, it took me a couple weeks of having a like a saved eBay search, and I would check every day to see if any new Tough Talkers went up. And this bad boy went up on eBay, and I came from Hawaii actually, so that was kind of weird. I don't know that I've noticed anything else I've purchased on eBay coming from Hawaii, which is interesting, to me at least. It may not be interesting to you, because who cares? I mean, I got the item, who cares where it came from? But I thought it was kind of cool that it came from Honolulu, and now I can forever say I have a figure in my collection that came from Hawaii, especially if I never get there. So, yeah, but cool one there for the Tough Talkers. Like I said, exactly the same, so nothing out of the ordinary there. And speaking of exactly the same, we have Create a Superstar Series 1. This is exactly the same as the Create a Superstar Series 2 John that we talked about in a much earlier video. So everything is the same, and the accessories and everything were all the same. I didn't put the tactical vest on this one this time, just to make him look a little different than the other one in the collection, you know. Obviously this one you can't do anything to make him look different, so it'll just look like the same figure in there twice. This one I could make him look a little different, so that way if somebody does look at the collection and notice, I could say, yes, they are different figures. They came from 2 different series. However, they are the exact same. That's why, like I said, I made this one look a little different. This is the tactical vest. If you remember, like I said, if you've seen my other video, you saw what he looked like in this. But I just thought this one I would have a little point of difference and not put that on there. But this is the Creative Superstars Series 1. So this is the line or the series that started the Creative Superstar. Creative Superstar line. And if you don't remember, I'll briefly go through it again. But it was a set of figures where you could mix and match their pieces. So you could take his legs off, you could take his feet off, his arms off, all that kind of stuff, and you could interchange them with other figures that you bought in the series. So that is where this John came from. He does still have 2 more creative WWE Superstar figures that I don't have. They're still on the list. There's a 2-pack with Triple H, and then there's another one where he's alone, but it's like a deluxe set where it comes with a ton more accessories and different things. And it is a different figure. It's not the same exact army gimmick or army style John Cena that the Series 1 and Series 2 were. So we will finally have something different when we get either of those 2 in the Creative Superstar line. I am excited to get more of those figures, so maybe I'll try to bump those 2 to the top of the list and get those in here quicker, but we'll see. But yes, that is Series 1 Creative Superstar John Cena. Side note on that too, the only way to really tell the difference is the packaging. The packaging is slightly different because when Series 1 came out and Series 2 came out, they updated the packaging between the 2 just to make it look a little more in line with what their elites and basic packaging and stuff at the time looked like. So the coloring and the wording and the different things like that's a little different, but other than that, everything is identical. So that is the Series 1 Creative Superstar John Cena. Next up, we have a really modern one, one that just came out this year and just came out recently, and that is the Amazon exclusive Ultimate Fan Takeover John Cena. So there he is with his Nux. He's got the chain, the hat comes on and off. He's got the jersey there. He came with a bunch of other accessories I already threw in my accessory bin. So he came with more hands and a couple different other heads. But yes, that is the Fan Takeover John Cena. Now, the Fan Takeover is something we haven't talked about yet because this is John's first and only Fan Takeover as far as I know. I also don't know if they're doing any more Fan Takeovers, to be honest. I haven't seen anything more about that. But anyways, Fan Takeover was when Mattel would give you the guy, and they would give you 3 variations of that guy, and us as fans could then vote on which one we wanted. So the winner was this one, the rapper kind of thug gimmick of John Cena. I apologize that I don't exactly remember what this is from. I want to say maybe WrestleMania 20, but I'm not 100% sure on that one, if this is the jersey that he wore. Obviously, the jersey's unbranded. Like, it doesn't have the name. It doesn't have like the team that it represents or anything like that. It's just a straight blue jersey with a 33 on it. But I want to say it's around that WrestleMania 20 time frame. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it is a very cool Ultimate to get nonetheless. This is the one I would have voted for. I can't remember exactly what the other 2 to vote for were either, because this was voted on, I mean, eons ago. Maybe it's got to be pushing 2 years ago now that we voted on this John Cena. I'm not 100% positive on that either, but it's been a while. I know one of them was a more modern look, so similar to some of the other Ultimate we saw maybe a couple videos ago, where he had the longer hair, and he was more babyface, not, the rapper kind of tweener character. So it was a more modern one. I believe both of them were a little bit more modern than this guy. I think this was the most classic look of John Cena that you could vote on. So very happy that won. This would have been one I added to my collection. Either way, whether I was doing the John Cena collection or just my pre-2008 collection, this John Cena would have been added. So very happy to have that one. I love that he comes with the Nux. They've done these a few different times now with him and Sasha Banks, but I love the little brass Nux that he comes with. Those are really cool. But yes, so that is the Fan Takeover Ultimate John Cena. Ultimate Fan Takeover John Cena. Very cool there. Very modern figure. It just came out. I got it through Amazon this summer. It was delivered. I've had that one for a little bit, but not too long, not as long as some of these other ones. I had the Tough Talker and the Create a Superstar one for a while. I've probably done maybe 3 or even 4 videos that I've had those two, and just haven't gotten around to adding them to the 6 or so that we talked about that video. So, all right, I have one more figure, and it's last but not least here. This one needs a little explanation because at the beginning of this whole collection, I said I was just doing singles and double packs, or, you know, the battle packs, the showdown packs, or whatever they call them. Those are the only that I added, because for the most part, the ones that come with the rings or the cages, or the ones that come in like the 6 packs or 5 packs or whatever that they used to do, especially when Toys R Us was around, Mattel used to do that quite a bit, but I didn't add those because they basically were all just straight repaints or straight identical figures to any of the other figures that you could get at the time, be it Elite or Basic. So I didn't think it was necessary to add all those, on top of the fact that those are all like insanely expensive. I didn't think it was necessary to buy like the, you know, the ring pack that came with, you know, Big Show and John Cena, but like to get them, you know, mint on card or whatever, so I can tell or know that it's the exact John Cena from that set. You know, you're talking $200 plus probably. Like, it just didn't seem necessary. However, I did find one that looked drastically different than any other John Cena figure I've ever seen. And it's this prototype and or very, very early John Cena in WWE figure. It's just a basic, but he comes in his, you know, green and white biker shorts with the green and white wristbands and the, you know, very clean cut, very baby face looking John Cena. If you don't know, Prototype was his name in OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling. That's what it was when John Cena came up. They didn't have NXT yet. They had Ohio Valley Wrestling, which was essentially run like its own promotion outside of WWE. I don't know. I'm sure they did. But for the most part, it was its own promotion. It had its own events, all that kind of thing. And it wasn't spoken about on WWE TV, if that makes sense. So like right now, you could watch Raw and they might reference NXT or talk about NXT, or even advertise, you know, the NXT's on TV tomorrow or whatever, or advertise the NXT pay-per-view, things like that. That was never a thing with OVW. OVW was not spoken about like NXT is nowadays. But this is what he looked like in OVW. And then when he first came up to WWE, he also continued to dress like this. They started calling him John Cena. They didn't call him Prototype, but he still dressed like this for a while until they learned about his ability to rap, and that's when they changed his whole gimmick up and all that kind of stuff. But they've only made a handful of, you know, Prototype or super, super early days John Cena figures. And this is the only representation of him in that green and white. And in the 5-pack that it came in, I found for pretty cheap. It was like $30, I think, for the whole thing, mint on card with all 5 figures and all that. So I thought I would jump on it. This wasn't a part of my original 221 or whatever it was, so I didn't add this to the list because I didn't think I was ever going to get it with how expensive I assumed it would be at the time. But I just searched John Cena basically on eBay and see what comes up, and hope to find good deals and whatnot. And I did for this. His name was listed in the listing instead of it just saying, you know, WWE 5-pack or anything like that. John Cena's name was in the listing, so it found it, and I found it for cheap. So I thought it was a good deal, and this is definitely a figure that you could tell just looking at pictures was drastically different than any other basic John Cena that's ever come out. So I wanted to get this once I found it at a good price, and I actually made an extra sheet, and I started to put in extra figures. So figures that weren't on my original collection or weren't on my original list, I started counting up, you know, how many I have. This was the first one that I've gotten. I do have the 2 other ones that I talked about in a previous video, the one that's the Gujitsu and the one that was a Jax figure. But those won't fit. They don't fit in with the Mattels like this one does. So this one will just be right in line with all the other Mattels. But on my master list, I added it to the extra page. Sorry for the ramble. I was just kind of explaining my collecting brain and rationale behind this bad boy. If I see any more for good deals, I'll definitely scoop them up. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if I find that Big Show John Cena ring, and is it just the ring? It just might be a ring set. But it was a really, really early one. So like 2010-ish, I think. And John Cena versus The Big Show came, and you got the ring and the whole deal. But if I find that for, you know, cheap or what I think is a good deal, you know, I'd still scoop it up to add the John Cena to the collection. But it's not on my list to go out of my way to get it, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's another 6 John Cenas on the board. Another 6 added to the collection. I'm going to hop off of here and put them right up on the shelf. If you saw my last video, you saw what my shelf kind of looks like. I still got to get some lighting for it so it doesn't look so dark. Obviously, the picture had the flash on, so you couldn't really tell that it's kind of dark when you look at it. But very excited to see it coming together and start seeing it take shape on a shelf and not just be a bunch of John Cena's standing around somewhere. So cool to see there. But I do have probably at least 2 more videos of 6 figures for John that I could make. So you're like I said, you're talking about, you know, 12 or so more figures that I've gotten. He's starting, like, Mattel is starting to catch up with his career ending year, if you will. So obviously they had an SDCC exclusive. They've had 2 or 3 other ones that have come out since then. So I have a few that have come out since that, or since Mattel's been catching up with him announcing that he's retiring and then starting to make figures of his final run, if you will. So I have almost a whole video I think I could do of final year John Cena's. Maybe I will wait and just get all of my final year, like him and his last time is now shirts, things like that, and I'll do a whole video on just modern John Cena's. I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, now I'm just rambling, so I'm going to hop off out of here. I hope you enjoyed this next look at my updated John Cena collection, if you will, and I'll see you in the next one.